So,
Oh goodness, Lynn, you cut out. Your audio is gone. I don't know what happened.
that's interesting.
Now you're back.
I'm back now. Okay. All right. Okay. Said my internet connection's unstable. Of course, I'm about to get to the good stuff.
Okay, I think we're good now.
Okay. So, picture holding a regular flashlight in your hand. Okay. And when you look at it, now you know the job of the flashlight is to provide light, right? And when you look at one end of it, you see a little bulb or a lamp. There's a reflector around it, and then there's a plastic cover over that, clear plastic cover. Okay. But how bright that light shines is controlled by the part of the flashlight you can't see. Because in the darkness inside the case of the flashlight are batteries. Those batteries represent the power, and the more power that's in the batteries, the brighter the light of the battery is going to shine. It's the same with us as human beings. It's the same with us as the light within us can only shine as bright as we have integrated our darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So most of us have been taught that the worst things in the world happen from our shadow, from our darkness. Mm-hmm. And we've been taught to fear it, mm-hmm. because God forbid we should do those same things as other people. And you'll hear names like Hitler cited. Oh, well, we don't want to do that, or other names of bad people, right? That killed people or did other things. But until we integrate the shadow, and a big piece of integrating the shadow is recognizing that I have the same capacity to do harm to people in the world as Hitler did. I may not have his level of power, but I could have his level of anger. I could have his level of rage. I could have his desire for revenge against, or his desire to kill people. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we need to understand that, because the minute we see ourselves as better than the people who committed the atrocities, then we can't forgive them or ourselves for what happened. And essentially we shut off our own light. So part of the process, and this is a process to integrate our shadow and infuse it with our values, infuse it with the beliefs that we hold dear, so that we don't do the things that Hitler did, so we don't do the things the other worst people in history, you know, whoever you could name, Genghis Khan or Mao Zedong or other people, right?
Yeah.
The purpose is not, but in the Matrix, we've been taught to fear the shadow, but what we didn't understand was that our power is in the shadow, and in integrating the shadow, integrating our darkness, and understanding that it's not to be feared, it's to be brought into harmony with the rest of us. If we are fully human and fully divine on a higher level than on a lower level, as human beings, we are not just our light, we are also our darkness. And if we ignore our darkness, if we don't process our darkness, if we don't become aware of our darkness, then all that saying of love and light is a nice sentiment, but there's no power behind it. And it's not until we integrate the shadow that now the people who would be afraid to get involved, their light's going to shine so bright once they've integrated their shadow, that they will not only get involved, they will feel powerful in doing it because they're here because they understand that they can play a role. Whereas before they would have listened, they would have watched the things and they would say, yeah, okay, but that's for other people that I can't do that because I don't have the power for that. No, everybody has the power for it, but they've been convinced that the power they have is bad. They've been convinced that the only thing that power is going to do is hurt more people. And exactly the opposite is true. Our power can be used to free people, starting with ourselves.
May I ask a question? Might be a
Yep.
silly question. How easy is it for somebody to, where would you start if, for somebody who's hearing these words, there might come up the question of, where do I start? What does that mean for me? What is the next concrete step that I can take toward doing what you're saying?
Yeah, so have you ever heard the saying, there but for the grace of God go I? You ever heard that saying? Okay, so, and if you stop and think about it, what does it mean? It means that if it weren't for
Oh, wait a minute, Lynn, you've gone mute again. I'm sure you're gonna be right back. You're still muted.
child.
Oh, you're back.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
this is fascinating. But I noticed that when I'm really like getting the stuff out there, that's when the connection problems start. So yeah. But if we can just understand that we have the capacity to do what the worst possible people could do. You know, I'm working on a book right now with a former drug and alcohol addicted stripper. And her story is amazing. And it's really amazing that she's even alive with how many drugs and how much she drank. But her story has been so fascinating because it's another aspect of the shadow. It's another aspect because most people would look at her and they would have a judgment. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we get to learn how to do is let go of the need to be in judgment of others. Yeah. Right? There's lots of people that aren't awake or don't understand what's happening in the world around them. And until we learn to let go of judgment, we will see ourselves as better than them. And it'll be hard to have compassion for people we think we're better than.
So one of the first steps is the acknowledging that I have the capacity to be like any of the worst people that we've experienced.
Yes.
That we're no better.
We're no better.
Unless we act better.
We have free will.
Yeah.
So we have the ability to make choices. Everybody has the ability to make choices. And we're responsible for our own choices. But and so, yes. Go ahead.
Doesn't that make the difference though? Isn't that why we judge the others? Because they made, in our opinion, they made less good decisions for themselves, which is why we judge them, because we have made better decisions, in our opinion. I believe in my life, I've made decisions that I would say are better than Hitler's decisions. If I have, of course, I haven't had that power. I'm just being a little facetious. So I have made, in some areas of my life, I think I've made better decisions than Hitler. I don't even know what it sounds like. But so that's where I judged him based on where I see I am, my level of awareness toward being empathetic, being fair and just, and what he did. So that's like me judging him based on where I stand in life. Isn't that something that is we all like, we're all starting where we are. We look at the world through what we consider is just and right in our perspective. So
Right.
isn't it, how else can we measure, right? It's kind of like, we need something to measure. So how can we get out of judgment because of the very fact that we need to be able to, first of all, understand where we stand, and some have more or less of an understanding of where they are in life compared to somebody else. And if there were no Hitler, I wouldn't even have that sense of contrast that I have with
Right.
him. So,
So
yeah.
think of what you just said. What would be the value in your life of knowing about the existence and activities of a person, Hitler? Right? It gives you contrast. You use the word. How would we ever know light from dark? How would we ever know good from bad? How would we ever know right from wrong without contrast? How would we ever know sad from happy without contrast? How would we know joy from depression without contrast? What I'm saying is that when we understand that everybody is on their own journey through this lifetime, and that the earth is a place where our souls come to learn lessons for the ultimate expansion and growth of our soul. Our human part of us doesn't necessarily understand that. We don't know what's coming next. You know, we don't know when we're going to die. We don't, or transition. Now we can make choices that make our lives better while we're here. But if you think of all the people that got the vaccine, you know, some are dying and some aren't. But how do we know that that wasn't part of the master plan for their life to do that? We're all playing a role in a game, in a play, in a simulation, in an illusion, whatever you want to call it. And so we can respect where that other person is and recognize that on some level, Hitler did us a service, because while the human side of us wants to judge and compare, the spiritual side of us is saying, see, now you have contrast. Now you know the difference, right? And I think, you know, I'm gonna share this with you. One of the things I've noticed in women who've come out of abusive situations is that they don't trust kindness in men. And at least not initially, right? It's like it takes a long time for that to happen. Well, why is that? Well, because of the experience that they had, but that kindness in men that they may encounter after that is a contrast that they wouldn't have understood had they not gone through the abuse experience. I'm not justifying the abuse. I'm just saying that if part of our lesson in coming here was to understand the difference between kindness and abuse, for example, then we would have had to have seen the contrast to appreciate the more positive aspect of it.
That reminds me of when I see people interacting with each other or couples, where I'm like, one partner is extremely kind and the other one is just abusive towards that person. I'm like, you have such a wonderful person, such a supportive person, but you're so abusive towards that wonderful person, is almost like I'm talking kind of about the unconscious abuser, the frustrated partner, be it a woman or a man, who is just taking the other for granted, or frustrated because the person's not following what makes them happy and blaming it on the other person, or whatever they are taking out on the other person. And like,
Yes.
there's if they had that sense of, apparently they're not intelligent enough to understand that that person was just being kind. So it's almost like they're calling for an adjustment because they are not able to appreciate the kindness which sometimes I'm like, God, that person really needs a lesson because of what kindness means, because apparently on their own they're not able to understand it or to recognize the kindness. And that's often what I think is so incredible with coaching and mentorship in general, is a lot of people, I find this so sad, need something extreme to jolt them into, maybe I should do something, out of their comfort zone, be it a sickness, a car crash, something to make them wake up, or a heart attack. And like, oh, yeah, maybe I do need to see my life from a different standpoint of, and but that's a very uncomfortable way of moving into, like, transitioning into change. If we were more intelligent, and I think we have to get there, we would make the decisions when we're in our comfort, not in our comfort zone, but in a place of peace and calmness, because that's where we have the most strength, and we have a supportive surrounding that would support us while we transition, because transitioning is very messy. And
Right.
it could mean that I might not be able to work for properly for a couple of weeks or months, or maybe even a year, because I am cleaning up my house in terms of ancestral baggage,
Right.
you name
Right.
it, a healing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think I would probably use a word different than intelligent. I would
Yeah.
probably use the word awareness,
Yes.
right? I think it's because I think until we become aware of something,
I
we
agree.
don't, but once we become aware of it, we are permanently aware of it. Now, there are situations where that awareness can go away, and that's if we're involved in belief systems where we suddenly stop believing what everybody else believes,
Mhm.
and now we risk being, tossed out from the tribe. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all my friends, but in order to keep them, I've got to either believe everything they believe, or at least pretend to believe it. But pretending is only going to last just so long. And then, but my soul is going to be screaming at me and saying, but this isn't even you. Why are you hanging on? Why are you trying to stay involved in this? You're betraying yourself. You're betraying your own values. And so that takes me into something. So this is the integration of the shadows, a 4-week program, but it's also would be a part of a bigger program that I'm developing along with a new book that I'm writing. And it's really about, well, the original title was The 7 Layers of Truth, but now I think it's more something called Coming Home to You. And it's really about helping people connect with the truth of who they are. And because once you connect with the truth of who you are, it helps everything. And so one element of connecting with the truth of who you are is the why. When Lisa took you through your why, your
Yes.
how,
Oh
and
my
your what,
goodness. Mhm.
right? Because I'm a coach, I'm a why coach like her. And that's how I connected with her
She told
originally.
me, yes, exactly. She was
Yeah.
telling me the story about how you connected through the Y
Yeah. And then
Institute.
she came down to Florida and she was on my show. And then I went and down to Miami at a couple days later and watched her speak at the Blue Talks and met a bunch of people there. And, you just never really know. And that was the first time I met Bruce Poppy. So, so now I'm trying to connect with Bruce. But I watched him and Robert do this show. I watched it last night. I don't know. I think they
Robert
originally
and
did it.
Bayali?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they originally did it several weeks ago.
Mhm.
But I'm going to be having a conversation with Bruce here soon about this topic that you and I are talking about, because I think there will be some people, and again, there's no cure all, there's no one size fits all in all of this. And I'm not saying, oh, well, everybody that hears this is going to resonate with it. No, some people will resonate with it and some won't, and that's okay. It's not my job to try to force it on people. But the people that it resonates with, I believe they will be ready to step into the front lines and be able to say, you know what, I'm gonna put myself out there, and I'm gonna do more than what I've been doing. Because that's what the movement needs. It needs more people who are willing to step forward and actually do stuff.
So what would you recommend for coaches and mentors or healers or therapists watching this and wanting to integrate what you're talking about into their work?
I guess I would suggest that they go through the program I'm creating, because it's a lot of it is really understanding the nature of the shadow. And I want to back up and be really clear about something, because most times when we hear about shadow work, we're hearing it about Carl Jung from a clinical psychology perspective. I don't approach it from a psychology perspective. I'm not a therapist. I approach it from a purely spiritual perspective, because of this is really a battle that's taking place. And this is a battle for the power of the individual. And that power is, in many individuals, this is being able to turn that power back on is like the movie The Matrix, where you unplug them from the matrix. But for some people, they need that understanding of literally taking their power back, like not figuratively, but almost like literally taking their power back. But again, it's a spiritual thing. And so if you're familiar with David Hawkins and his book, Power versus Force, as more people are able to shine their light more brightly, because they're powering it from what they used to consider to be their shadow, which was off limits to them, and that light shines more brightly, it has a greater effect on canceling out the darkness that we would associate with evil in the world. And it's like, there's a darkness that's evil, but then there's a darkness that is neutral, that we get to decide. That's our individual darkness. We get to decide what we're going to do with that, how we're going to approach it. And if we don't step into that power and use all the power available to us, it'll be hard to win this battle. It'll be hard for us to get where we need to go. But if people understand how strong that power is within them, if you can understand the level of anger or hate or rage that someone would have to decide to wipe out an entire ethnic race from the planet, that's a lot of power. But it's power for evil. But what if you could take that same amount of power, we all have that within us, and use it for good? What if you did that? And what if we all did that together? What would this look like going forward? How many more people we would have ready to step into the battle rather than stay in the shadows?
Yes, absolutely. My head is spinning with questions too. Would you recommend that every coach become a certified Y coach as well?
I think they can. They don't have to. Now, I use it. One of the things I do with my clients, like with the longer type things, is I do a Y assessment, a Y discovery on everybody, because I want to know who I'm working with and what they're all about. My business partner.
My Y.
Yeah. Well, yours didn't really surprise me a whole lot. Because it's so funny, when you're in this work for a certain amount of time, you just kind of look at people or, interact with people and you say, I bet they're and then you find out what they are. So yeah, I do some writing. I'm actually working on and I just do this for fun. I wrote something, I don't know, 6-8 months ago called The 9 Whys in the Kitchen, which was, how each of the 9 whys would approach a cooking situation. And it's just to add things for people. And so now I'm working on something called The 9 Whys in Love.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What do you mean working on something? What is that going to turn into?
Well, so it'll turn into an article that I write and give to the Y Institute and let them publish it, and I'll put it out in different places and things like that. I'm a
The why love
Pisces,
test.
I'm very
Lynn,
creative, so
we need a why love test.
yeah. Well, I started writing something. I'm about halfway through it, and this was going to be specifically for survivors of abuse, as to how to deal with each of the whys, and to be able to understand, like, I was having this conversation with the producers at the studio, or one of the producers, I think yesterday or the day before. And, it's funny because people, like, let's say the why of better way. All right. So their goal is to find a better way and share it. But in a relationship, if their partner doesn't know that's their why, they'll think they're constantly being told they're wrong or being put down. Same with challenge. If the person doesn't know that their partner is a challenge, they'll feel like they're being attacked.
Right.
But if they know their partner is a challenge, then they know it's not personal. It's that they're going to challenge the status quo of everything around them. But even with that, it's like, but what is the ultimate goal? Well, the ultimate goal is to create something better, right? You challenge what exists because it's not working. And that somebody has to lead the charge to challenge what is, and maybe then somebody else will come in and go on to that next step, right? Of actually creating, maybe a better way will come in and create something. Maybe the challenge opens the door and a better way comes in and creates the better way. There's a million ways it can work.
So I pull back that statement of, not the statement, but just the thought of having, coaches all become a certified Y coach, and turn that into, it's really beneficial for every individual to have done their personal Y, because that shifted the way I saw certain things about myself and how I interact with my environment. When Lisa was describing
Right.
my whys or my why, and then my how and what, and I was surprised about especially the priority, like the why, because you have all kinds of thoughts about yourself and aspirations and ideas, but it's can the why change?
They typically don't change, but they don't have to. Now, one of the things I'll share with you is that your why is your purpose until you discover a calling. Okay. In other words, your why is your why as a purpose is pretty generalized, right? Like for me, my why is contribute. Okay. And I can be helping with all kinds of stuff. And I've been doing that. I've been helping people write books. Okay. But my calling is all about truth. And that's also my gene keys. Truth is at the top of my gene keys. So for me, it all fits together. My first book was about truth. I grew up in a world where I didn't know the truth of who I was. So that's why it's important for me to help other people discover the truth of who they are. So my calling is to help people discover their truth. My why is broader than that. My why is because I want to help people. I want to make an impact in the world. I want to make a difference. I want to make the world a better place, right? But specifically how I do it now with my calling, now my why, how, and what become the how of how I execute my calling. So that's where I've taken this to, right? It's like, so if you look at your why, your how, and your what, if you have a specific calling that is in your heart, that's why you're here to work in that specific area. And a lot of times we don't discover this until a little later in life. Okay, I don't know, maybe things are changing now with millennials and whatever generation we're on today, but you know, because I could, so my how is clarify, which means I ask people lots of questions because I want to get clear and I want them to get clear. And then my what is simplify. So now I got all these answers to questions that I got from the clarification process, but that's going to overwhelm people. So how do I take all of that and simplify it down to 3, 4, 5 actionable steps that are simple and repeatable and lead to predictable results? And so that's how I use mine. And so I use that in the book writing process, right? I actually take people through their why discovery at the beginning of the process. It's like, okay, no matter what happens on this journey, I know the truth of who you are from a why perspective. And so I'm going to know that what you do ultimately is going to come back to that, even if I don't understand it in the moment.
Yes.
Right. And even, you know, even in the area of, oh, go ahead.
No, sorry.
In the area of relationships, it's like, you know, people talk about how important communication is, but, and this could be with a partner, it could be with a business associate, it could be with your kids, it could be with anybody, right? A family member. But if you don't know, because their why tells you what's important to them. And if you don't know what's important to them, you don't know how to talk to them. And, you know, like for someone whose why is contributive, somebody came to me and said, we need to do this because that's what the boss wants done. You know, I would be like, I don't really care. But if somebody came to me and said, you know, if we did this, we can make a huge impact on about 20,000 people, I'm in. What do we need to do?
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Total different approach.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, you know, it can be difficult for people with challenge, people with better way, because if we don't know, because this is how we are, like our why, how, and what, this is how we do life. It's how we make decisions in our lives. And if we don't know how we operate, that's why it's called an operating system, because if we don't know our operating system, well, we don't know how we do life. We don't know how we do anything. And then we get into the situation that I did a post about yesterday. It's like, did you ever, you know, run into someone who doesn't know what they want, but they're certain that they'll know it when they see it? And in most cases, that's really a lie. They won't know it when they see it. They'll still be looking for it 20 years from now, because if you don't know who you are, how could you ever know what you want or what you desire or what you need in your life or what you need out of any moment or anything, if you know who you are?
How do you even know how to integrate yourself into your projects, your work, your relationship? How to explain yourself, or maybe, let's say, understand your frustrations, desires, wants, and maybe even the sadness. Like, how are you supposed to know that if you don't understand yourself? Where are you coming from? Where are you going?
Yeah, and there's other, you know, there's other aspects of it that I work with, but I don't know. I'm writing the book, so did I tell you about the book last time we talked?
Yes, I would
did
love
a little
to.
bit, right?
I would love
Yeah.
to. Just a second. I'm going to close the door because my son opened his door, and I'll be right back. Just a second.
Okay.
I'm back.
Okay.
I was going to ask you to talk about it again, because I think it's so relevant, and I love the topic of truth, because we're hearing about truth everywhere, but what we're not hearing about is what is truth and how to define it. What is your truth versus the truth of somebody else, and what are we actually all looking for here if we don't even have that defined?
Right. So I would say that the first thing I would say about that is that when you know the truth of you, you have a higher level of discernment of what's true around you. And if somebody's trying to tell you what you're not or what you're supposed to be, then you have to listen carefully to that, not because you want to do it, but because you may not want to do what you most likely don't want to do what they're telling you you're supposed to be. A lot of us live in fear of the monster under the bed. Okay. But we fear something else even more. And that's that we're the monster under our own bed.
It's true.
Right. So when we begin to understand who we truly are, one of the first things we discover is that we're not the monster under anybody's bed. You know, we're this beautiful creation that is here to experience life as it can only be experienced on Earth.
I can believe there's so many people that need to hear that. It's like it's such a relief, because we've been manipulated, controlled, or we've been conditioned into so much fear, we can't think straight anymore. It's all fight or flight mode. What is it called? The parasympathetic system is the parasympathetic, right? That's the fight or flight mode. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
it's almost like it's activated at all times, be it from the media. Even if you go on TV, like let's just say Telegram channel as an alternative source of getting to information that has been censored is full of negativity. It's not any less negative. It's sometimes even worse because it's not uncensored. So you see things that you sometimes cannot get out of your head anymore. It's really it's like everything's brought to you in the comfort of your home, but it puts terror into your system. Yeah. And I don't want to divert from what we're talking about, but there's so much that is there to infiltrate our systems, and we're dealing with what you just said with, am I the monster under the bed? And then you see all of these things that just amplify that fear that you already have. So if that fear could be like, pop that bubble, like you're not the monster under the bed, then we would have a different perspective of how we deal with negative information and how to also set boundaries. How much is good for me? How much isn't good for me? Because I need to protect my goodness too. And build on that. Like energy goes where focus flows, where focus goes. And so what am I? Yeah, not only our why, we need our truth.
Yeah, and even for myself, I try to have a balance, and I'm aware of when I've spent too much time in the negative stuff, and then I'll pull myself out for a while. And my business partner, my co-author, my co-host, my support system, Louise, she's always like, wants to make sure that I'm grounded and that I'm not getting in too deep. But I know how to pull myself out. So, but sometimes it's like, yeah, I can take a little break from it. World won't end. But see, I read all of it as a work of fiction. Like, yes, these things are really happening, but there's a part of me that, we have two aspects of ourselves, right? We're the participant, but then we can also become the observer.
Yes.
And it's really important to spend time as the observer. And that when you get in too deep, become the observer and see what's happening around you and understand within yourself that you're okay. right? We have fears that are constantly put into us. And I watch even on YouTube, but really everywhere. I mean, I watch sports on TV. It's about the only thing I watch on TV is sports. But here come the fear commercials.
Yeah.
You know, right? It's like, okay, well, I don't even pay attention to the commercials anymore. It's Super Bowl. I didn't even watch the halftime show. I watched the game. That was what I was watching for. I actually turned the sound down on the TV, which is directly behind me. And I just sat toward my computer during halftime and didn't want to hear it, didn't want to see it, didn't want anything to do with it, because they're usually coming up with something where they're trying to do a whole lot of signaling.
Yeah.
In the halftime show. And it's like, nah, I don't need that. Thanks very much. I know what it is. And then sometimes I got to pull myself out with the survivors that I were survivors of satanic ritual abuse, MK Ultra. I love those people. And yet sometimes I have to pull myself out, and say, okay, but I'm okay. Just remind yourself you're okay.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. It's amazing.
What can you advise somebody? Same, I asked with I don't even know what my thoughts are going in too many directions. What would you advise somebody in terms of truth, of where to start? Similar to the question I asked within.
Yeah, so that's really where I guide people through my coaching, is to help them really be able to me, there are 8 elements of our truth. And 2 of them, we've talked about the shadow integration, we've talked about the why. Okay, there's also our connection to the divine source, universe, whatever we want to call it. There is our beliefs and belief systems, our level of awareness. Most of our beliefs and belief systems were formed as a direct result of our need to try to stay alive in dysfunctional families, mostly in childhood. And those beliefs that kept us alive don't work anymore once we're out of the situation and as adults. So, I start this process of layer 7 to layer 1 with beliefs, and then we get into awareness. Now, when we go in and then we come back out again, so the process of going from layer 7 to layer 1 is self-discovery. The process of going from layer 1 back out to layer 7 then is divine empowerment. And in the beginning, we discover where our beliefs come from, and in the end, we consciously choose what we're going to believe. And we create a life around the beliefs we choose to believe, because it's all beliefs anyway.
I've never heard of any other coach doing that. Why is that?
I don't know. Because if you don't, like, part of what I talk about in the book is this whole concept of healing and transformation, which is another one of the eight elements of the truth of you. Now, a lot of people have gone through these beautiful experiences, okay? But those healing experiences don't necessarily change your mindset. And ultimately, you don't change your life until you change your mindset. And you change your mindset by applying your healing every day. In every situation that comes along, that becomes a test for whether you healed from that particular thing or not. And then you can choose to apply it or choose not to apply it. But the more you choose to apply it, the more you've integrated your healing, the more you've integrated your transformation, and you're actually where you want to be. So at some point down the road, I'm going to create a integration mastermind, which will really be people keeping each other accountable for being in the space of applying their healing on a day-to-day basis.
Accountability is so, so important and so helpful. And I remember in our last conversation, you were talking about integration, because you said a lot of people have already basically healed. It's about the integration process and being able to live it, like integrate it into their daily life and your surroundings and environment. That makes
Right, right. Because if we don't do that, then a little ways down the road, we look at ourselves and say, well, I thought when I healed, my life would get better.
nothing happened, right?
I thought things would change. Well, nothing changes until you do. And so the majority of your change is going to come through your mindset and the adjustment of your mindset. And, when I talk about a 4-week program for people to integrate their shadow, I'm not saying they will be fully integrated at the end of 4 weeks. I'm saying that they will have a huge jump start on the process, but ultimately they'll be responsible for keeping it going. And then if they want to participate in a mastermind type thing after that, then I'm willing to do that. But you got to start somewhere. And so the somewhere is to go through the process, see how you're doing, see if you want to move forward with it, with the integration, or with the daily application. It's a little different. The words get a little confusing because when we're integrating our shadow, there's actually the integration, but then there's a short-term integration and a long-term integration. And then short-term is what we can do initially to start opening up the access to the power. It's like taking the tape off the batteries, right? So that now they can actually touch the connectors and the power can actually come out of them now. So that's what that is. And again, it's taking people through that process. And I'm probably going to have a landing page made for that soon. I'm not fully developing the program yet because I want to see what the landing page tells me in terms of what people think they need and what they think and what they want. Now my goal is to give them what they want, or to sell them what they want and give them what they need.
That sounds like Tony Robbins. He said in life, you never get what you want, you get what you need.
Yeah. But
yeah,
you got to open the door. You got to open the door somehow, right? So you open the door with, well, what do you want? And well, I want this. Okay, great. So we'll put something.
Both is true, because if I think about what I want, I'm not thinking about what I need to get there, but at least I know what I want, and that's really important. And you need to, like, it's good to know what you want, and then you need to know what you need to be able to get what you want. Right. And then in the process, what you might completely change.
It could. Yeah. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of relationships right now, is that one of the two partners is starting to really get in touch with who they are and saying, this worked for me before all of a sudden I had this new awareness. And now it's not working so well, but we all have this idea, well, we signed a piece of paper and that's forever. It's like, well, that's great, but doesn't work out that way. Look at the statistics. And you go into it with the idea that you're going to be partners in growth. I love Gary Zukav's work, especially in the area of spiritual partnership, right? I can have a spiritual partnership with anyone. It doesn't have to be a romantic partner. And, Louise and I have a spiritual partnership, which means we also share a past life together. So, which is what we wrote our book about. And so we kind of have, it's interesting because we're both operating on a level now that we really didn't get to operate on through much of our lives. because it's like part of it is remembering and part of it is having the freedom to just go and be who you knew you always were in that kind of situation. And then that opens the door to all kinds of other stuff, and, you know, seeing the world differently and all of that. And you know, it's interesting because I've never had this much support in my life. Sometimes I don't know what to do with it, right? But I'm receiving it.
You're doing so much good, and it's like the law of resonance. It's like you're helping and you're attracting help.
Yes, I mean, she will jump in and help me with anything. She'll put her kids to work helping. If, you know, if there's stuff she can't do, she'll volunteer her kids. And the kids, they're in their 20s. One's a little over 30, but, you know, it's just kind of funny because this is all such a beautiful thing for me to have this level of support. And, you know, I tell people that she does it in a really beautiful way, because as men, you know, we need to be challenged. But if we're only challenged, then we get caught up in performance.
Oh, yeah.
But if we're supported and not challenged, we get lazy. So the only way this works is a combination of challenge and support. And so that's been my experience. Yeah.
And it's wonderful to hear that from a man. Like what men need, and we women need to listen more and ask the it's all about asking the right questions. It's like what, and then some men, I think, like, men also need to hear this, because I'm sure that some men maybe haven't thought about this way yet, or looked at it this way and said, wow, it's actually really truth. And it comes from people like you who are so introspective and have done so much inner work and have gone through such an amount of experience in life to be able to come to this point in understanding what truth is in the true sense.
Well, yeah, it's, you know, it's weird. Are you familiar with Course in Miracles?
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, the real interesting approach to things, especially Gary Renard, who's written 4 books related to it. I've read 2 of them. But, you know, the deeper you get into this, you begin to understand that there's a level at which you can operate that almost doesn't seem possible, but it allows you to, I don't want to use the word scale, let's say transcend a lot of the stuff that happens in life, and allows you to see the good and the potential good, and to see life as an opportunity for a celebration, as opposed to how am I going to get through till tomorrow. And, you know, so I love working with people, but I'm also getting more selective at who I work with, because my job is not to fix anybody. My job is to guide them in the process of healing themselves. And I'm not a healer. I'm what I would say, I provide the context for healing.
The lighthouse, the guiding light.
Yeah.
Have you thought about creating a truth test?
Doing what?
A truth test.
A truth test. Oh, like creating something, you mean? I have a test on my website. It's a how to speak your truth test. So do you speak your truth? Oh. But I don't have anything at this point of what truth is, because ultimately each person is a makeup of the 8 elements of of the truth of themselves.
Mhm.
So we're all going to be different. I haven't categorized, broken it into categories or anything like that yet.
Test is not the right word in context with truth. You're absolutely right. It should be more something about like first of all, giving orientation in terms of what is truth out of your perspective. That's already very helpful. What is truth made up of? It's almost like a truth, not a truth compass, but something
Mhm.
like that. So if you
Yeah,
go,
it's
yeah,
really understanding. So that's really what the book is. It's the 7 layers of truth. So our truth is made up of our beliefs, our awareness, how we handle what I call temporary truths,
temporary.
which are thoughts, feelings, emotions, and opinions.
Mhm.
And then the next layer below that is our purpose,
Mhm.
our purpose or calling.
Mhm.
Well, actually, let me see if I did that right. No, the next layer is our childhood wounding. So it's the temporary truths, then our childhood wounding. When
Childhood
we
wounds.
childhood wounding, or just whatever we need to heal,
Mhm.
we can call it, or whatever we need to transform within ourselves. When we go through the most painful part of it is when we discover our purpose. And because the people think that they shouldn't experience pain. No, that they shouldn't experience suffering. Suffering is simply overthinking our pain.
Oh, I love that. Oh my goodness. I've never heard that before. Suffering is
Overthinking our pain. Yep.
it really puts things into perspective.
And then that pain is designed to power our purpose. There's not another layer, but when we know the pain, like I'll give you an example. So we had a guest on our show maybe about a month ago, and I know that Louise had a stillborn many years ago. Would have been her only daughter. And when this lady who I brought to the show, who's a friend and a person we'll be referring people to, after the show, she shared with Louise that she had had a stillborn. The connection between the two of them was instantaneous. And the reason it was instantaneous because there was a pain that never goes away that they shared. So your pain is a way to connect with other people. You and the people in your tribe are going to understand that same pain, that same level of pain. That's going to draw people. The people you're meant to work with, people you're meant to be with, you have that commonality of the pain. And so don't turn off the pain, because the pain is like a beacon bringing people to you. Because, wow, I feel the same thing you do. I know what that was like. And you watch them have this conversation. They don't even have to say anything, right? But the depth of it, and the love and the compassion and the caring and the empathy and all that stuff is just flowing, and you're there and you're feeling it. And it's so amazing. And what do people do? We're all trying to avoid our pain. It's like, no, yes. Yes. And it's like, no, that pain, if you're feeling pain, it's there for a reason, but it's not necessarily the reason you think.
It's a messenger.
Yes. Yes. And then that takes us down to the level of our gifts, because we were not put here to carry out a calling and not be given gifts to help us in the process of fulfilling it. And then, of course, gifts need a giver. And that takes us to layer 1. which is our connection to God or source or universe or all that is, or whatever you want to call it. So
May I ask you what you are in human design?
what I am in human design?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'm a generator. And the top of my top of my whole thing is I think I'm a 6, and it's truth.
Yeah,
So
no wonder, right?
I've actually got it right here, as I keep it handy, so I don't. Yeah, so that I'm a line 5. Yeah, my life's work is 63.5, which is truth is the highest elevation, inquiry is neutral, and doubt is part of what I'm here to overcome. So yeah, I have a friend who does these readings, and it's amazing because she just gives so much information.
It is so
But
helpful. It changes. It's another one of those things that just changes your perspective. I have another question, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Do you think, like, how do you see conscious awareness? Do you think that we come here with a preset level of awareness? And how do you think that evolves or changes? Because some people have the opinion that you come here with a certain amount of awareness and that's it.
I believe we come here blindfolded and not knowing who we are. And part of our life's journey is to rediscover the truth of ourselves. So when I talk to people about discovering the truth of them, I might also be talking to them about rediscovering the truth of who they are. There's such a core level of who that person is. It can take 3 to 4 lifetimes to learn a single lesson. So depending upon where they are in that lesson, we don't know if we're catching them in the first lifetime of it or the 4th lifetime of it, right? But it's all about being able to learn the lessons and help ourselves to evolve from that place. And the reason that I wanted to speak to you again, the reason I'm so excited about this is because I feel like we've bought into a lie, and the lie is that the shadow is no good and we need to protect ourselves from it. And it's almost like, you remember Popeye, the cartoon, and whenever things got bad, he pulled out a can of spinach and then he got super strong, right? Well, that darkness that is within us is there for us to utilize how we see fit and make a choice as to what we're going to do with it. And some people are choosing to stay away from it and stay in fear of it. And some people are going to start integrating it and using its power.
I am so curious. I would love to look into that. I mean, I do a lot of work on myself, and I have amazing people around me who help me figure myself out when I feel like I'm up against a wall. And so I'm like, if there's anything I can be challenged with, or I really want to challenge myself. So in the most controlled way, I find a lot of joy, which is, I have, a contribution, challenge, and then mastery. Part of that really applies to all of it applies to myself. I never cease to want to discover more about who I am and why. It's the potential. Why wouldn't I? For me, it's my potential. It's uncovering my potential. I would love to go and see where are more shadows and how can I transform that? Where would I start? Would I start working with you if I want to do that?
Yeah, it's I guess so. I have a process that I've developed, but before I kind of launch it, I'm going to do the sales landing page and see what kind of interest people have in it. and see where they think they want to go. And really it's, you know, part of this is even helping people understand the concept in the first place, right? Because like a lot of things, like, you know, we hide the truth right under our own noses. And this has been there all along, but it's like the universe keeps bringing me in touch with people where I'm like, all right, how do I end up working with these clients? Like, why do they show up in my space, right? Why do I have all these people? It's like, okay, I'm there to help them, but they're also there to help me, right? So every client that I have is a lesson for me. I'm not just helping them, they're helping me too. Right. So that, to me, that's really powerful, and it changes how I see people.
When are you going to be ready with the landing page to be able to ask people? Because I'd love to support that.
I have a friend who's going to be doing that. Matter of fact, he just created a landing page. So, you know, I have this, Louise and I have this show called The Editor's Desk, and we are just launching a new venture related to it called, I live in Boca Raton, called the Boca Book Review. And we have a service package that we're offering primarily to new authors or authors who want to jumpstart the sales of their books. And there's 4 packages they can choose from, but this includes all kinds of things. And I will, I'll send you a link, because that landing page just got done this morning. And then we're going to be working with the creator of some of these tools. Like he created a video trailer for our book, which I haven't put out. We haven't put out onto anywhere yet, but that's about to happen. So just, you know, I wrote a script, and he's got access to all this footage from Hollywood and the music, and built the whole thing. And it's like a, you know, it makes the book look like a romance novel about past lives, right? And so that's going to be a way to help sell it. But we're offering this service because we really want to help authors. And we're, as far as we know, we're the only book review company that is actually run by published authors. All the rest of them are kind of just taking advantage of published authors. So.
Well,
Yeah, you froze a little bit now.
Approaches. Do you see and hear me?
Yeah, try it again. I couldn't hear you for a second, but try it again.
That? Do you hear me?
Just a little bit, like every other word. Oh, now I lost you.
Am I
There
back?
you are. You're back.
Yes. So it's probably the up here that, you know, the snowy weather, it keeps on, like, trees keep falling on cables, and the internet, and I mean, the electricity has been going on and off. Who knows what it is? Yeah. So when you have anything, please share it so I can share with our community of mentors and finders who we have a mixed, and you never know who it's relevant for.
I will definitely send it. Well, actually, I can tell you the link. It's bocabookrareview.com.
So Boca,
right? B-O-C-A.
B-O-C-A.
Yeah, 1-0, B-O-C-A. Bookreview.com. Boca Book Review is all one word.
Okay. Where does Boca come from?
Boca Raton, Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And we get the
And-
alliteration with it too.
Yes, and I have everything else of you. I mean, I've already, I'm just gonna probably
Yeah.
take the information that you already
Okay.
sent me, all the links
Yeah.
and stuff from the other.
Yeah.
I enjoy talking to you so much, and there's so much meaning in what you say. And I feel like moving forward with this, also with Find Your Mentor, I have a feeling that there's going to be some, I think, some areas of alignment where I would love to ask you for your opinion, or like we have a lot of approaches with Find Your Mentor, which I think make Find Your Mentor so unique, which is all about the approach of how to, what the experience is of a finder onboarding onto Find Your Mentor, and what we really, our mission is to make also the mentor, just talking about the finder who's seeking knowledge. This is a platform that takes you by the hand and gives you the feeling, the certainty. This is all about you. This is your journey. This is not about Find Your Mentor. This is not about the mentors. This is not about the platform. And this is definitely not about marketing. This is about you. Who are you? Like starting to build a relationship with who are you? Because this has to shift in our awareness of how is business designed to serve the highest good. And it can only happen if we start asking the right questions and listening and working together. We need to go into a collaboration. And only then will we be able to create meaningful solutions. And I find technology is the most powerful tool next to our conscious awareness that can help us reach people in the darkest corners of the world, as long as they have internet connection.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's great. And we are in the age of collaboration now. You know, the lone wolf days are gone. Look
where competition has brought us.
Yes.
It's exactly, it's the lone wolf. There's a lot to be said about, taking time for yourself, but that's not what you're saying. It's not about taking off time. It's about the zero-sum game mentality, which is the opposite of connection. It's the opposite of unity. It's the opposite of one. And that's where we see so many people suffering, old people dying alone in retirement homes with nobody to care for them, nobody who's loving them, and the tragedy of people who are more connected than ever before in terms of technology and social media, but lonely as never before. How is that even possible? The combination of us coming out of an era where we have created this, we're able to consume everything, but what we've done is we've created a huge amount of separation, and then at the same time we're now connected, but we're coming out of the state of separation. So now we have this, again, huge contrast. And now at least we're able to make not better decisions, but we can perceive this contrast. And I think that's the pain, which is so positive and valuable in these times. It's painful to see the contrast, but only through the pain, not the suffering, but the pain of seeing what's happening, can we make better choices. But we really need to understand how to create better choices. We need to, I think we're all collectively going into healing and empowerment.
I'm going to have my tech person and person who does these videos, and he's really talented. He's actually literally the voice of HBO. And he is he does movie trailers for like Warner Brothers. So he's really gifted at this stuff, and he and I have the same birthday. And so but he just, anything with the technology, with the digital stuff, he's really, really good with. And when you see the landing page, I mean, he literally put that together in less than a day.
The website, Boca Book Review?
The book review, yeah. That landing page, he put that together in less than a day.
Wow,
Yeah.
cool.
So what we're going to be doing is offering this to our clients.
Mhm.
And one of the things we're going to do is part of the package, the one package is the client will get a QR code, which is a link to Amazon to buy their book.
Mhm.
And then when the client comes on our show, we will put a banner on the bottom of the screen that says, click on this or take a picture of this QR code to go and buy the book now. As opposed to waiting until after the show and then having to type the stuff in and find it and all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, right now, because everything is right now. Because if you wait after right now, everybody gets distracted and then go do something else. So
there's another, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's part of the needing to do that. I could talk to you for another 2 hours probably, but I actually have another call that I need to take or I need to get on. But I again, I would love to work with you. It's just a matter of how we do it. And I think some of it lies in the stuff that I shared with you, in really being able to help your people discover themselves. Because once they really have a sense of themselves, it'll answer so many questions. And then it'll almost be easier for you to help them find a mentor as well, right? To know how to match people up, not just in technical expertise, right? But also in who are they as a person.
That's the core. That's really the core element of Find Your Mentor, is find your right mentor match.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're specializing on, in understanding how can we create the most meaningful connection possible. And like a dating platform, that's the whole magic, is like, how close can I match up to people that are beneficial for each other. And that's something that on all of social media that mentors when coaches are marketing themselves on, basically patchworking their marketing together.
Mm-hmm.
Is it actually possible to match people up or to find your right match? Why? Because the algorithms are working against you. They're not designed to do that. They're designed to show you what they want you to see. And it's not personal growth. It's profit growth.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's the whole book review business too. And that's why we're changing it. But I do need to run. Thank you so much, Sophia. It's been so much fun talking with you. And I know we'll do this again. And when we do this again, let's start to put some pieces together. And then hopefully I'll have that new landing page done of the shadow work. And I can send that to you. And then I think that'll be a good place for us to start a conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Really look forward to our next conversation.
I do too. Thank you.
Okay. Take care, Lynn.
Right. You too.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.